everyone, and welcome to the Dirty Side of the Grid podcast, where we've turned up late to qualifying and ended up on the dirty side of the grid, seeing as everyone's making a podcast.
And they've got all the good names.
They have, yeah, but to me, Dirty Side of the Grid works, I guess. It's alright. Great start. Well, my name is Mohammed, and here with me is Yusuf. Do you want to introduce us?
Yeah, so we're both aerospace students here at the University of Nottingham, and we're coming together to do a podcast on F1 to kind of analyse maybe the technical regulations with the new technical regulations, and to have a look at the races. So like we'll do podcasts pre and post races, and on like kind of the big moments in the championships, and what else? We'll have a few fun ideas about what we can kind of include in the podcast in the future. We'll keep them a surprise, I guess.
Yeah, because we've definitely come up with them and we're very prepared. But yeah, we'll also have potentially guests and stuff. We also have, I don't know, we waffle about F1 a lot, so we'll definitely be able to fill in the gap between races, even though there's like a triple header coming up. But we'll be able to fill up gaps, and then I guess the season is very much coming to a close, so we'll have a lot of talking points, I reckon.
Yeah, I think once the season's over, we'll have a lot of talk obviously about the technical regulations, be explaining what is new with the technical regulations, how it's going to work, what's different between the new and the old cars.
Why they've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can also do the, just in general as well, we can always compare F1 to, while it was under Bernie Ecclestone, we can see and have a look at the changes that Liberty have made since they've taken control. So there's a lot of talking there about what they're doing, what they're trying to do. One of the main things, I guess, will be the new races they're trying to implement.
And you can tell we're two broke university students because we're currently recording this in the library, and I've had to basically recording it on my camera, on my phone. So I'm that's why I'm sitting on the table, because we couldn't basically get to set it up with two phones basically.
Humble beginnings. It's great.
Yeah.
I still haven't even used the wind tunnel yet.
Yeah, it's not that fun.
Well, so I got into F1 personally because my dad watches a lot of it, so it was always on the TV when I was a kid. So I got into it around 2008, 2009 time, but I didn't have the attention span to watch a full race, which is fair enough because that went straight into the Vettel era, so it wasn't that interesting. But there were some good moments, and I've been watching just ever since, really. What about you?
I think I got into F1 probably when I was about 6 or so, like 2006 probably. But like the first full race I watched was Monza 2014, where I think it was Lewis who won. Yeah.
Safe bet.
Yeah, safe bet. But basically, I think up until that point, because Formula 1 was on a Sunday and I had school on a Sunday, so I couldn't actually watch any of the races. The only thing I could watch was on a Friday, and that was thingy. It was, so I could watch Friday, I could watch Saturday, which is like the press conferences, and like I could watch like qualifying, for instance. No, it's not the press conference. Friday is practice.
Yeah.
And then Thursday is press conference.
You got to watch practice and quali and then miss
yeah,
the race.
basically, and miss the race, so it's a kind of shit, isn't it? But yeah, so Lewis, that first race basically, I was ill, and I got to kind of watch the whole race at home and miss a day of school. So yeah, great memories.
I actually couldn't imagine going to school on a Sunday. I still couldn't imagine it.
Anyways.
So yeah, we're just making a podcast because ever since we met at the start of this academic year, we just talk a lot about F1, to be honest. We can't have a conversation for under half an hour about F1, so we thought we might as well try record it, see if we could structure it somehow, and then give out some information, seeing as, not to be that guy, but a lot of F1 podcasts now, the angle they're coming at is very new and it's very fresh, which is great, but I feel like we can almost provide a different angle, being able to, like I said, compare from how it was before Liberty under Bernie Ecclestone, and then how it was even the hybrid era, really.
I think the big point is Drive to Survive, to be honest. Because like
bro, everyone's clicked off now.
Yeah,
if all our 2 viewers have just left.
Yeah, but pre Drive to Survive, basically, F1 was a bit like the fan base was a bit different, because everyone at that point was kind of understood F1. They've been around.
Yeah,
But now basically you get these kind of like Lewis fanboys or Max fanboys, whatever, and they come on and like
Lando fan.
No, but Lando fanboys are fine. Like they're essentially because Lando. I think if Lando's competing for a championship, then you kind of see them a lot. But with
right.
Lewis and Max, you get them. They're basically just chatting shit, and that's the point.
Yeah,
they don't understand anything. That's the irritating part. Is that like they go in and they cause a lot of the fans to actually hate the driver, whether it's Max or Lewis.
Yeah, the rules are biased and all of
Yeah,
these claims.
but that's the thing is. It's because of them. It's not because of the driver as well. It's because like when everyone's going like, Lewis is so great, Lewis is so great. You're gonna hate him because like. Yeah, okay, I get it. Just leave me alone,
Yeah.
Basically. Anyways.
It's tough, yeah. But you're right, because the way Bernie run it, if not to get too into it now, but he was very cornering the rich older viewer who basically, if you knew F1, you were very much into F1. But now it's doing a lot better now because mainly the money's where the casual fans are. So if you can get casual fans into any sport, you can get someone to click in, watch a little bit, and then leave, then you're doing a lot better for yourself.
There's also like with Liberty Media, they started focusing on younger fans. They want to bring in younger fans, whereas before that it was more about like older people and like people who actually knew F1 and stuff like that. Whereas now the idea is to bring in new fans. That's the whole idea behind Drive to Survive. But Drive to Survive is to bring in new fans who not necessarily do not know a lot about F1, but could learn, which is like I think it's actually been great because it's brought a lot of new people in. And the sport is getting better and better, and it's forcing like Liberty Media to essentially push the envelope and make for better racing.
Yeah,
that's the whole idea of the whole
new
technical regulations is to bring in new fans. But I think the issue there is, like. You just get people who don't understand what they're talking about, and instead of kind of trying to understand what they're talking about, they chat shit. You can tell I've been in a lot of groups where this has happened, and I've left a lot of groups because
I can't even come across F1 fans, to be honest.
No.
I've met
No.
like 4 F1 fans in my whole life. That's what I mean. Growing up being an F1 fan is tough.
I don't want to get into it because I'll just get really annoyed.
We'll save it. Yeah, we'll do a whole podcast about Liberty or something. Or Drive to Survive. We could probably do one about Drive to Survive. So, this episode, which has been, to be fair, to get the idea of what we're going to do, we're just going to have a general point and then kind of skip around it, not mention it, and then go off on tangents. So, yeah, what we're going to try and do is...
Great stuff.
Yeah, no, it's quality stuff. I'm sure all of it's very interesting and very relevant. So, this episode is meant to be a pre-Mexico one, so currently practice 1 has just ended. It's between practice 1 and practice 2 because it's North American, so we've got the time zone difference.
You want to give a rundown of the practice 1, like the timings? Yeah,
we'll do that in a bit. We'll save that for later. So currently, if you want to... Max is leading the championship by, I believe, 12 points. I'll have to check that quickly.
Yeah. He is leading by 12 points.
My question to you is, does that mean he's won the championship?
I think Kota is a big kind of decide. When you go back and you look at the championship and you're like, that's where the championship was decided. I think that's Kota this year. Like, I think we'll look back and we'll say that made a big difference. Because Kota has traditionally always been a Mercedes track. I think with that, like oddly, like when Kimi won, that was the odd one out.
Yeah, not even like a Mercedes track because they were dominating the turbo hybrid era. Just in general, they've always been stronger.
They've been really strong there, and so you kind of assume Lewis is going to go there. And out of kind of the tracks after that, you have Mexico, you have.
I've got the list actually. Brazil.
You've got Qatar and Saudi, and you've got Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, based on last year, it's more of an kind of Red Bull track. Brazil has been traditionally a more Red Bull track, especially with their performance, like better performance on like high altitude races. And then you've got Mexico, which has traditionally been a Red Bull track.
Very high altitude, yeah. Mercedes
and
tend to struggle with them.
And Kota was the last Mercedes track. Like Saudi and Qatar, we don't know what's gonna happen, to be honest, because like people can speculate, but we don't have like data based on like previous, because they're both new.
They're not even built. Have you seen the pictures?
Yeah, Saudi is not finished. Yeah, it's crazy. But so out of all those, the last 6 races, Mercedes had one race that was in its favor.
Yeah.
And they lost it. Well, I feel like they lost it because Max won, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
And basically, he built his gap over Lewis. It's not 12 points. It's not a big one. Like if Lewis wins, like 2 more races, the gap is back in his favor. I think it's like 2 points in his favor. But for him to win 2 races out of the common few races is difficult. Like, I think it's actually like, I don't think he's gonna win in Mexico, to be honest.
Who, Lewis?
Yeah, I don't think he'll win
Yeah,
Mexico.
nice.
I think Max will win Mexico. I think Max will win Brazil. And at that point, for Lewis to swing back the championship and win, he has to win Saudi, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, to be fair, like, it was like before, like last year it was more of a Red Bull track, but the years before it was a Mercedes track. So I think there's maybe a possibility they could pull something out of the bag.
Yeah.
But I think this triple header is just gonna be painful for Mercedes. Just like the last triple header was France, was it France, Zandvoort, and something else? Mercedes lost all 3 races. It was Austria.
It wouldn't have been Zandvoort.
No, it was Austria, France, and something
Austria
else.
again, maybe. I think it was Austria twice.
Was it Austria? Oh, Austria.
It might have been
Austria,
Austria
France.
twice.
Austria, France. Yeah, it was Austria Styrian Grand Prix, and then France.
Yeah, France, Styria, Austria. Yeah.
Yeah, that was painful for Mercedes. They lost every single race. It was just damage limitation at that point. They were horrendous. Red Bull was
First, second, and
they were so quick.
First. Oh, where did Lewis? So first, Max won all 3. Lewis finished second, fourth.
Yeah, so I think that was damage limitation. I think this week will be damage limitation. Ideally for Mercedes would be Valtteri just smacks into Bottas. So Valtteri smacks into Max like he did at Spa and just takes him fully out of the Hungary. Just takes him fully out of the race. That's kind of the ideal scenario where I think if they like for Lewis to actually really contend and win this championship, he needs big wins.
Yeah, because that's the thing. So what people don't realise is, sure, finishing first is great, but if Max finishes second, the difference isn't that much. But if Max, I don't know, breaks his front wing, he has to pit on the first lap, he has to do a recovery drive, finishes 8th, that first place is now worth so much more.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's all about consistency.
Especially with the new point system, even if Lewis wins 2 races, Max comes in second, this championship will swing back in Lewis's favor. I don't see him winning 2 races, that's the issue.
It's a big ask, but to be fair, you can...
Especially, I only say that based on his form this year. Like, if you say Lewis 2019, I would not write him off until the very last race. Like, last lap of last race, essentially.
Yeah.
But with kind of the way he's been performing this year and the way Mercedes have been performing in terms of strategy and stuff, I told you, like, strategy this year, Mercedes have been awful. And Lewis this year... They have been,
they even did it last year as well, but the car was good enough to make up for it.
Lewis this year has been so... not inconsistent in terms of like a newbie driver, but inconsistent in terms of like what you expect from Lewis.
He's not been at his best, yeah.
No, he's been making so many mistakes. It's kind of like when you watch like Messi and Messi's like not doing anything. You're like...
It doesn't mean Messi's bad, but he's a bit off. He's exactly. Not. There's something going on, yeah.
But I think this year you can just see it with Lewis. Like Max this year is performing more like Lewis over the past few years in terms of
there's no doubt Max is
faultless.
I was about to say his peak. He's not. He's at his best. He's definitely not peaked. There's no way he's peaked.
Yeah.
But he's definitely doing very well.
Yeah, I think this year like the races Max actually lost were a race. Whereas what was it? Azerbaijan. So not his fault.
Yeah, tyre blew up. Hungary straight after. I think Hungary was right after. So
that wasn't his fault either. Yeah. I think the only one you can attribute to kind of immature driving from him would be Bahrain, where he could have won that race if he was a bit more mature and at the time like picked the correct time to launch that overtake. But he chose a incorrect time and he went off the track and then his tires were gone and he could not bring it back.
I guess so. Yeah.
So that's the only loss or like.
I'd go Monza. I'd say Bahrain. I wouldn't blame him for, but I would blame him for Monza.
Would you? So basically, all the races he's not won have been races in which he wasn't really there, and like Russia where he had to come back from P20, he came P2, which I think is incredible.
Yeah, that's the luck and skill. Obviously a lot of luck, but to get himself into wherever he was even before that all happened,
was a big deal. So I think that was also like a big turning point because Mercedes had a chance to build up a big points gap, and Valtteri just let him through.
Yeah, even for Lewis's confidence, he was in second until the last 4 laps or something.
Exactly, yeah.
So he definitely bottled a very easy win. He should have won that by I know he won it by a minute or something anyway, but that's only because of the whole the rain thing. He should have won that by 20 seconds, no problems.
But yeah, I think that's the. I think Max is confident in his car. Is confident in his team, and they're getting the best out of him this year. I
Yeah.
think like he has like incidents at Silverstone, which I honestly in that one I blame, like, I'd say for Max essentially at that point he was 33 points ahead and he lost 25 points in that race. The only thing I'm blaming on that lap is he lost so much.
Yeah.
If he'd just given up that corner, went behind Lewis, came back second place, he loses 7. I think that's kind of the maturity that comes with kind of being in F1 for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the
he's
kind
been
of
in
thing
F1
Lewis
for quite
would
a
think
bit.
about, even
Yeah.
in such a small
I
period
think
of
he's
time.
been in F1 for quite a bit, you can tell. Like, he's been here since, what is it, 2016, 15?
I would have been 15, I think. He would have done a season at Toro Rosso
Exactly,
in 15.
half a season. Or did he do
No,
a
full season then, and then he would have
Yeah.
done the first, like, it must
No,
have been
no,
like
he did
4 or
half
5 races in
he-
16.
Was it? Are you sure? No, I'm pretty sure he...
Did he only do half the season in
I think
15?
so, yeah. Because he went in the Spanish Grand Prix to...
Yeah, but that was 2016.
was it?
I'd say his debut was
Okay.
15.
So Max essentially he's been in F1 for quite a bit, but I don't think he has the level of maturity that say someone like Lewis has, or
He
someone
would
like
have, yeah.
Jensen would have had, or someone like Fernando has, or Kimi.
Oh,
or
Fernando is, isn't it?
the level of maturity they have only comes with experience, and I don't think Max is anywhere close to having that. And you can see that from Monza, you know. Like he goes so quick, and then he's on top of Lewis, which to be fair is a good thing for him because Lewis didn't manage to score like a lot of points.
Yeah, Lewis would have passed him and then
But-
been chasing after the
Yeah,
McLarens.
But that's also like a thing with Lewis. Why did, like, I think Lewis at that point was like, I've had enough being pushed aside by Max. Or if you're gonna put a tire in, I'll put a tire in, and kind of we'll smack into each other and
Yeah.
we'll both be out of the race. But yeah, I think Lewis has been quite. I would say inconsistent for his like the standard he set.
He doesn't know how to approach Max because the problem is Max, although I'd say previously he was the kind of driver where he'd go for anything. Obviously there was the Verstappen rule. If you don't know what that is, it's when so Verstappen used to love doing this move where if he's ahead and there's a car approaching him with DRS most likely, he would wait until they've decided where they're going to move before he makes his move, which was first of all very dangerous. And then the specific regulation I believe was imposed to say you're not allowed to move under braking, because he would not only swerve late to block their move, so technically at the time within the regulations, because he was only making one move on the straight, he would move under braking as well quite aggressively. And then just in general he was known for fairly dangerous driving, in a sense where
Quite recent, I think until last year basically. He was
pretty much, yeah. There was actually one season where he did it was either 17 or 18. I think it would have been the first 6 or 8 races. He crashed at every single one. I do believe maybe 1 or 2 weren't his fault, but most of them were due to him being overly aggressive. And he was told if he would change his driving style in a very Max way in every single interview, he said, no, I'm not going to. And then he almost did. I feel like he did. And for the rest of the season, he had a very impressive season, actually. So I feel like from that point onwards, he's been very good and very consistent. But the way Lewis has approached him now, if he doesn't back down, there's an accident. And if he does back down, he's losing the position to Max, and he has to spend another 8 laps behind him.
Yeah, that's actually like a big thing for Max, isn't it? Because Ayrton Senna did the same. He'd kind of throw his... Excuse me, Martin Brundle was talking about this. He said he'd just throw his car into a corner and kind of, you want to crash? Okay.
Sounds about right,
Yeah, and Max has the same style in terms of he'll throw his car in the corner and be like, you want to crash? If you don't, you have to get out of the way. And it's been successful for him so far, and actually it's been successful for him this year, like over the course of the
very
whole
successful,
game. Because Lewis has, like, if you look at the people Lewis has raced, they've been fairly clean drivers. Not fairly, they're actually quite...
They're very, yeah, so even Alonso, as fast as he is, he's very fair.
Alonso is a clean driver. You had
Button was
Button
as well.
clean. You
The other
had
one still had a competition.
Rosberg,
Rosberg, they both crossed the line, to be fair.
Yeah, but I think even with Rosberg, they both knew the limit of, in terms of like...
Yeah, because Toto would have a go at the Masters.
Except Spain, where they actually smacked into each other because Nico was on the wrong engine setting. I think they kept it fairly, as in they touched, but they did not crash. I would not call it crash.
Yeah, that was the only major one,
because
I'd say. There were minor incidents.
There was kind of respect between them. And like they knew that, okay, we're going to race hard, but we can't hit each other, essentially. like actually like crash into each other, except Spain. Spain was the only one where they fully crashed out. But with Max, essentially, after that he had Sebastian when Sebastian was in
Sebastian,
Ferrari.
very fair as well.
Yeah, he's, I think, maybe not in Red Bull, but Ferrari,
yeah,
he calmed
maybe not
down a
Red
bit.
Bull days.
He calmed down a bit when he kind of went to Ferrari, matured and stuff. But with Max, essentially, Lewis has never had a driver as aggressive as Max. He's never fought against it, like as in like for a championship, not in terms of like a one.
Yeah, because in general he's fought him, but obviously he just kind of backs off because he doesn't need to, or his car's just so much
exactly.
better.
But now he's fighting it for championships, and he does not have such a big advantage that he can just fly past him on the straight. And so now Lewis has to actually deal with Max, and I think Lewis is struggling to deal with him. He does not know what to do.
I would agree with it. Yeah. I would say it's going to be very interesting now that he signed his contract. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year. I'm very excited about next year.
With the new technical regulations, is Mercedes going to stay on top? Is it going to drop? I think one thing we have to ask is Red Bull is still spending money on development of the car, till now. Christian Horner said that, and they're going to keep spending to the end of the season. How is that going to affect them next season? Are they going to lose performance? Is a team like Williams going to jump all the way up the grid?
Yeah, because they get them all wind tunnel time now as well.
Exactly. So, who is it like? I think that's the interesting part. Like,
Nikita Mazepin 2022 world champion.
No.
Bro, Haas has spent the entire year.
Yeah,
they've spent the entire year, bro.
Yeah, but it's Haas.
But it's Mazepin.
Have
you seen that guy behind the wheel?
Mazepin, sorry. apologies for that.
That guy in a car, he does a...
One big question that always came to mind was with George Russell, should he go to Mercedes? Should he actually go? Because with the new technical regulations, Mercedes could go back and Williams could go forward.
Oh, are you saying...
He could be on the worst team now. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically speaking.
They do have new investors now as well.
Exactly, Williams is spending most of its money on the development of the car, whereas Mercedes is spent a good chunk of it on the development of this year's car. To be fair, they only came with one big upgrade. Since then, it's been small. So yes. I think Mercedes actually have been spending most of their budget on next year.
They have, but even then, surprisingly, first of all, Williams can't even afford to put a screen on their steering wheel. So like, there's that. So I think they need to there's levels and they need to get there first. But second is I'd say even with Mercedes upgrades, I think it was it Turkey or Monza at some point the commentary, there was a clear switch in people saying that Mercedes should have the fastest car now, and seeing as it's coming to the end of the season, no one should be upgrading. This should be Mercedes now with the superior car up until the end of the year, and it's meant to get very interesting because it's meant to be Lewis chasing the title to the end. Instead, we've got they've come with that upgrade or whatever it was. Then they've come with that suspension thing that they're doing now, where they drop the rear end of the car for less drag on the straights, so they can go faster in a straight line. Both of them seem to. I'm sure they've benefited them in terms of.
I think the suspension
but it just doesn't work.
The suspension, I think, might benefit them going into next year. I think it might be actually something that was developed for next year that's being applied for this car. Because Toto said that, or it's not Toto, it's the other guy. What's his name? The technical Allison.
James Allison.
Yeah, he was saying that they would essentially they had one big James Allison. They're gonna have one big upgrade, which I think they bought in Turkey. Not Turkey, way before that actually. And since then they've not had any upgrades. Whereas Red Bull is still upgrading the car. So I think a big question for me is it gonna hurt Red Bull's title kind of chances next year? Because if you think about it this way, Mercedes could. After that one big upgrade, they move all their money to developing a good car for next year. And essentially all they're doing now is they know they've lost the championship, just drag it as much as possible to force Red Bull to spend as much money as possible this year on the development of the car. Because that's a smart decision. If you do that, Red Bull is forced to spend a lot of money to win the championship this year.
Yeah.
Which affects it next year. And Mercedes, the reason Mercedes has actually in the turbo hybrid era, they've dominated, is because they spent most of their budget on the new regulations. That was,
very early on, that's what convinced Lewis to join the team.
Exactly.
And
they spent most of their money on the new car, and they just dominated everyone. And I think they know now, because it's the same team essentially behind the scenes, same technical directors, same everyone pretty much. I think the only new person in there is Toto is relatively new,
Yeah, Toto was like 20. I want to say 17. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but
something
he's
like
the only new person. But everyone else has seen how like developing the car early, sorry, will actually end up with a championship winning car for the next 7-8 years, and or like basically the next technical. You have such a big jump on everyone else that for them to actually catch up with you, it's not impossible, but it's just extremely difficult. And I think that's what they realized. That's why this year Mercedes have it, like, even though like the technical regulations, which caught a bit of like the floor at the back, affected Mercedes more than anyone else, because the low rate car.
Yeah.
They haven't come up with like massive upgrades, because I think they're spending most of their budget for next year.
That is interesting, because I feel like the teams.
That's what I would do.
It's hard to find a solution to that. So that brings me on to this question, because the way you mentioned that, so you said they've basically accepted that they've lost. That brings a question I've seen everywhere is, I'm not going to give you the scenario, but we're going to say, in general, you're Christian Horner, you're Toto Wolff, which championship do you care more about?
I think for Christian Horner, I think I'll talk about Toto Wolff. Okay, I'll talk about Toto Wolff, because I actually know like this fairly well. So the reason Mercedes got into F1 as a brand was because they wanted to sell more sports cars, essentially. That was the reason they came in, because Mercedes wasn't seen as a very kind of sports car-ish brand, essentially. And so they came into F1, and the aim was to build a championship-winning car, win championships, and essentially sponsor the safety car, sponsor all of this, and essentially change the perception of what an AMG car is. And I think they've done that incredibly well.
Yeah, it's completely worked.
Now all the young people essentially are buying Mercedes instead of like BMWs and like
Audis.
People love these, like Mercedes now is seen as a sports car, like a proper sports car. And I think they've essentially won that. And I think it's based not on Lewis essentially winning the championship as much as the team winning the championship. It's based on the team. We are the best team on the grid.
Yeah.
We've got the fastest overall car.
I would agree they prefer.
So I think for Toto Wolff and Mercedes, I think they care more about the constructors, and I think they'll actually win the constructors, because I think with Valtteri and Lewis, I think Valtteri has been performing relatively. I don't think he's been performing good, to be honest, but I think
it's hard to tell with the amount of
exactly.
engine things.
But that's the thing. I think like what's his name, Checo's just been performing horrendously. I think that's why. I think he's been performing very badly. You know, like he had that one win. But to be honest,
because Max retired, to be fair.
Exactly, but like to be honest, he's not actually performing that much better than Alex Albon. People are talking about how bad Alex Albon is, and he got stuck in traffic and all this stuff. Same thing. Where is Sergio Perez? The only race where he was actually there helping Max was the last one at Kota.
Yeah, he's had a decent run of form for the last couple, but like
no, he's nowhere near like Max or Lewis or even like Valtteri. That's how like it tells you he's far behind.
Would you say that's him or the car though?
No, that's him. I think that's him. Like that's the thing. If you talk about say like Pierre Gasly stepping into a seat, Alex Albon stepping into a seat, I think there's a very different conversation, because they're new drivers in F1.
Yeah.
They've not had to experience the car. Like the car the last 2 years was incredibly difficult to drive. And essentially at the beginning of the season they fixed the problem with the car. Was it oversteering a lot? The car oversteered way too much, and it was very hard to drive. And essentially, that's what caused Alex Albon a lot of issues. They fixed that, and now the car is great to drive. And Sergio Perez is not a new driver. He's been in F1 since, was it 2011 or 20?
I think it is 2011. Yeah, I think he joined with Sauber in 2011.
Sergio Perez is an experienced driver. He's been in for almost 10 years. So, what's the excuse then? Where is he? He's not performing, is he?
I mean, so
He's
I believe
in
in
a
the commentary.
winning car.
I believe last year in the commentary, it was 2011. So I believe last year in the commentary what they said was, or last race, sorry, he's deviated from using Max's setups in the race, and instead of just going with what Max has done, he's trying to do his own thing, and it has worked out for him, and that's why he's been better. So I think he held up Lewis in, what was that race?
Turkey.
It was Turkey when Lewis couldn't overtake him. They had the little battle. Yeah, stuff like I think. But he's
like,
been doing his own
except
thing.
Except those 2 races, he's been nowhere.
No, yeah, for the
like
I say he's underperformed.
Silverstone, he's like a few races he actually got stuck at the back of the grid in a Red Bull. Think about that. Actually, think about it. Like Valtteri, to be fair, does that. He has those days, but not as frequent as Sergio Perez.
I guess out of the people who've switched teams, we've got Daniel wasn't performing. Perez wasn't performing. Carlos.
The only reason.
Carlos has actually been very solid then.
Yeah.
And Alonso, the rookie, has done incredibly well in his new machinery as well.
Yeah, I'd say the two have been performing well are Carlos and Fernando. I think Daniel, the only thing that kind of will save his season this year is that win at Monza, which is interesting because he has issue on like slow corners, isn't it?
I think that was it.
Yeah, he has issues on slow corners.
I can't remember.
And at Monza you don't get like slow corners.
It's just straight then hairpin, isn't it? It's just straight then left right, straight then left right.
They're not slow, like as in even that is like 80 kilometers per hour, maybe more. So it's not like slow as like say like there are a few other corners. I think it's Hungary where you have to really slow down, or like for instance, where was it? They have to go to like Monaco, for instance. Monaco, he struggled. Monaco is lapped by Lando. He struggled.
Oh yeah, I completely
Monaco.
forgot about that. And he won in 2018.
Yeah, I think that's because he's not used to the characteristics of the car. He can't get to grips with it for some reason. But I think this shows you how reliable Carlos Sainz is, and I think he's a very, very underrated driver, because if you actually look at the way he's performed against Charles, who people rate him, people say like future world championships, future world champions. They put Max, Charles, George, and I think now after his performance this year, Lando has to be in that category. But
he did have a great.
I think these four you can say like are once in a generation kind of talents.
It's very surprising how they've.
He's kept up with Charles. He's kept up with Charles. I think he's actually ahead of Charles going into Mexico, or he's behind him by like.
It's very close. It's very close, and I feel like the awkward thing for Carlos, if I just get his age up real quick.
He's 27, I think.
He's at the awkward phase where all of these new generation drivers are 22, 23. Carlos is 27.
Yeah.
So he's awkwardly in between. He's not Vettel and check who?
The driver standing. I want to see if he's leading or is.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean by keep going.
No, so it's he's not quite like Lewis and Fernando and Vettel and Kimi. He's not their age, but he's also not part of this new generation. He's kind of awkwardly
like
in between.
Kvyat, isn't it?
But he did I guess the impressive thing about him is he lasted, because other people like in the mid 2010s that were in the midfield were like Nico Hülkenberg, who, as much as people love him, he's not exactly.
Kvyat is gone as well.
Kvyat has also left as well, yeah.
Who else was back there? Maldonado.
Honestly, it's a crime. You
Marcus
should really
Ericsson is gone as well. Pastor Wehrlein?
Pascal Wehrlein. He was meant to be a big one, actually. I'm pretty sure Toto backed him.
Toto did back him. But he's done relatively okay. I wouldn't say he's done great. He's done relatively okay in Formula E. But that's not like saying anything, because Formula E is like shit. Honestly.
I mean, so the gap is currently 5.5 points, which in the grand scheme of life is basically nothing.
Yeah, see, he's leading him by barely anything. Look at the gap between Lando and Daniel Ricciardo.
Lando's 5th.
Ricciardo is what?
It's like 45 points or 44 points.
Bro, that says everything, Like, Ricciardo has to win 2 races where basically Lando doesn't score anything for him to actually come, like, pass him.
Yeah.
Which I think is just, like... I think that also speaks to the way... Do you think it's because they adapted the car to Lando's liking? Because they knew Carlos was leaving, so the whole of last year...
I mean, all of the development,
it's been around Lando.
You wouldn't have shown Carlos what you were doing with next year's car, so you're doing it all around Lando. So even if they wanted to design the car around both of them, they couldn't. So essentially, Lando's...
But with next year's car, obviously there's a clean slate. Yes. But I think the question here is, will the team listen to Daniel like they listen to Lando? Because they see Lando's performing incredibly well. There's obviously he's an experienced driver, he has a lot of experience, that's great, but he's not performing very well, so should we listen to him? I think his performances will introduce a bit of doubt in terms of I think if it comes up where Lando says something and Daniel says something, the beginning of the season would have been in favour of Daniel. I think now it's more in favour of Lando, actually, because he's the one who's actually the reason they're still in a fight with Ferrari is because of Lando, hands down.
Yeah. They should have been clear of it a long time ago.
Charles and Carlos are actually performing relatively well with the car they have. If Daniel was performing well, Ferrari is nowhere
Yeah.
close to McLaren.
Well, that's my next question actually. So quickly, I just want to ask you: the gap now is 3.5 points. McLaren is slightly ahead. Who's finishing on top? Who's
I
finishing
think
third?
McLaren will finish on top eventually. They have the much better car. I'd be disappointed if they don't finish.
It is inconsistent though. I feel like one week it's clearly the third fastest car, and then the next week it's.
I think
they
the
both
only
finish like
weekend
eighth.
the only weekend that was like very obvious about like their performance was Zandvoort. Their performance there was shocking.
Oh yeah.
Their
had a bad
performance
time.
there was shocking. I think the rest of the year it's been they're either the third best car or like they come in fifth, eighth, or sixth, eighth, or seventh, or like somewhere in the midfield.
Yeah.
Where I think is because they essentially get stuck in a DRS train, and so when you get stuck in a DRS train this year, it's incredibly difficult to overtake. I think maybe this year is just disgusting. Like you get in a DRS train, you're not getting out.
Yeah. It's
You're not
basically
getting-
your race is over.
Yeah.
We're just gonna watch. The
You
train.
you'll try and kind of get over it with a pit stop, but you're going nowhere, buddy. I think that's why I'm excited for new technical regulations, because then you actually get to kind of see hard racing, and
It's
you
very
don't really
exciting.
get
So
to see
exciting.
like DRS trains like that. Is the DRS is removed for next year?
Oh, I actually don't know.
Because
I think
they
it
have a
is.
fixed
I think
wing
it is.
at the back for next year. That's one thing that's going, because I think they introduced the DRS just to make more competitive racing until
Yeah,
the
it's
new
gone.
technical
It
regulations.
is gone. Yeah, you're right. So DRS was it was always temporary. It was introduced after the 2010 Abu Dhabi race, which if you haven't seen it, it's incredible.
Oh yeah.
Fernando
Good
Alonso lost the
memories.
championship because he was stuck behind Vitaly Petrov, I'm pretty sure it was,
Yes.
in a Renault for
Yeah.
like half the entire race. So
And he got so pissed off at the end of the race. He bumped into him and he was like, "You should have gotten out of there." And Martin Brundle was like, "Are you joking? He's obviously not going anywhere."
yeah, so
Incredible race, incredible season. You have to say that's one of the best F1 seasons of all time.
it was, yeah, and it was so. In 2011, DRS was introduced as a temporary fix for the awful racing, and it sort of worked-ish. But I mean, they've always been trying to run the balance between easy DRS overtake and actually getting them close, because the idea was you get close at the end of the straight, and then make the pass under braking. So I'm just glad they've got rid of it. To be honest, I feel like this is the first time they've made the regulations purely for better racing, because all the other
Even
times
though
it
the
was to
cars
make
are
a
slower.
faster car.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, if they've said now it's going to be half a second slower than the current cars, which means by the end of the year they're probably going to be faster. So we're going to see some track records probably by the end of the year,
Perhaps.
which
Yeah.
should be nice.
It'd be interesting because in 2025 they're looking at new engines, essentially with Audi thinking of
I
coming
think
in.
it was it 25 or 26?
26. I think it moved to 26 because of COVID.
Oh right. Yeah,
2026, and they're actually talking about removing the MGUH, which is very critical in the energy recovery system, but it's not applicable outside of F1 essentially. So they're like, why are we develop? It's extremely hard to develop. They're like, why are we spending so much money if it's not applicable like to the road cars and all of that? But essentially, the interesting part about that and the really nice part about that is you remove the MGUH and the cars actually have like it
Noise.
suppresses a lot of the noise.
okay, yeah, nice.
So I am excited. I want them to remove the MGH because I think the issue with these cars in the kind of mid 2010s essentially, the new turbo hybrid era is the cars are dead, bro.
The vacuum
don't
cleaner
sound
cars,
good.
the vacuum cleaners.
They don't sound good. Like, did you see like even Lewis's reaction to Fernando in Abu Dhabi
Oh.
last year?
I can't remember which year it was, but yes.
Yeah, it was
Yes,
last year.
yes. He
I'm
was
100%
mid-interview, and then he just his jaw dropped.
Yeah, and you heard that Renault going by, and that car just sounded incredible. Just bring it up. I have to there is this video of WTF1 where Matt is just sitting there and he's just listening to like one of the guys is like, "What are you listening to?" He's like, "Oh, listen with me," and then he just puts it in, and it's just like the engine sound.
It reminds me of I think that was a
2006.
Tuned episode where they have Alan Prost being a professor, so he swings his glass and it looks like he's wine tasting. I think he's drinking oil, and he says what type of oil it is or something, and then he's listening in his headphones, and then he describes the engine. He's like, yes, the V12 something or whatever, and he gives the make of the thing. I think that's what happened.
I don't
That's
think
what someone
2005 was a V8, wasn't it?
maybe I think
Yeah.
so. I don't know.
This is the
V8 or
engine.
V12.
This is the interesting thing. Imagine they go down to a V. It's a V6, isn't it now?
It's
Imagine
V6, yeah.
Imagine they go down to a V4 next. should be like disgusting. Why are you doing this to us?
They just slowly remove cylinders until they're just running off like an actual horse. They just turn F1 into horse racing. I mean, they do need to future.
No, but that's the interesting.
It was
thing.
V10s.
It's a V10. Now
Yes.
it's a V6, isn't it? The interesting thing is they're actually still managing to extract incredible amount of power. No, actually think about it.
No, I just missed the joke of Sir Lewis Hamilton on the horse. I just realised. Imagine, bro. Full on night song.
Search it. See if there's a picture of that. But you know what was I gonna say? With the V6 engines, they still get cars in the roughly 800-900 horsepower range, something around there, which is incredibly impressive for a car. Like, think about that V6. Though.
Yeah. That is a great livery. Oh, we're actually spinning this. You can't, bro. There's no point. There's no way anyone's gonna see that.
Incredible. Sir Lewis Hamilton has won again. Was it Bahrain? No, he didn't say that. He's like, Sir Lewis Hamilton, as he is known now, wins the Bahrain Grand Prix.
That must have been Silverstone, surely.
No, it was Bahrain. It was literally the first race of the season. Bring up, search it.
No, I'm not getting up.
No, search it.
No, right.
Search
so next point, quickly.
Sports.
Back to Mexico, because we need to be talking about Mexico. Quickly, I'm going to ask you. You have. I think you know what I'm going to say, but you didn't know before, so you're going to have to make this up on the spot. I need you to predict pole position. I mean, that's not exactly the hardest question, but give me a prediction. Actually, wait, no, hold on. Let me read out the practice results first, actually. I'm not going to go all the way through, but we're just going to get a quick rundown of FP1 and what happened, seeing as it's very recent. Okay, so Bottas came first. Mercedes, Lewis was just under a tenth behind him. Max was just over a tenth behind Bottas in first. Then we've got Perez in fourth, Gasly fifth, Sainz, Alonso, Leclerc, Ocon, Vettel, and that's the top 10.
You know who's an unsung hero this year?
Pierre Gasly.
Bro, like the amount, like the performance he's extracting from that car is just incredibly impressive.
Gasly to McLaren, I'd say.
Daniel out, Landers.
I mean, it all depends. If he was performing at the start, like now, how he was at the start of the year, I'd be very on that train.
But so I think it'd be Max.
Pole position.
Max. Yeah.
Do you want to do a top three? Let's do a top three.
Max, Lewis, Valtteri.
Okay. I'm gonna write this down.
Oh, and we're gonna get like I'm gonna get embarrassed next week and be like Lewis. Oh, my head's half out of the picture.
I am gonna go. Valtteri is actually good at qualifying.
Yeah, Valtteri is very good at qualifying.
I'm gonna say Lewis is gonna get finessed by Valtteri. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Max, Valtteri, Lewis.
Oh, interesting.
I'm gonna go with that. We'll see what happens. So now you've got to predict top 5 in the race.
Top 5 in the race. Max, Lewis, Valtteri.
So it's gonna stay the same.
No, and then fourth it would be Gasly and then Lando. I know. I'm just guessing now.
Interesting.
I think Sergio will just do really badly because he'll have a lot of
pressure.
It's
his home race.
Yeah, exactly. Drivers, when they have the pressure of like to have to perform well for a championship and a home race, they usually strike out and perform really badly.
Interesting.
It is. Think about it.
You're not wrong.
Think about it.
Right.
Like it's very rare. Like Lewis performs really well at Silverstone, but like everyone else performs absolutely disgustingly at their home race.
Max as well is very.
Yeah, but he won with Zandvoort because he was so far ahead of Lewis, not because he's like driving a great race or anything.
Yeah, that's true. He can't
like,
win
he
it on
was
3
so,
wheels.
he
Can he
so...
do it on 3 wheels though? Can he? I don't think he can. So that's how.
But that's the reason Lewis won so many British GPs is because his car was so much better than.
Okay, 2008 was.
Okay. I'll give 2008 is a special race. Like as in terms of like best races in history, I think it definitely goes up there. I'd say best races in history. You have that one, the 2010 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah. 2011 Canada.
2011 Canada. Jenson Button just driving an incredible race. What else? I'm trying to think.
We'd love to mention ones in the 80s, but we just don't know the 80s like that.
80s and 90s, we just don't know anything. What else? The one where Michael overtook Barrichello like that, literally before the line.
Oh, this one. Oh, my dad loves going on about that one. It was Indy. Yeah. Indianapolis, like 2000. want to say like
5,
2 or 3
I
or
think.
something. I don't know.
Sure. There was one in the US, and was it 2005 where no, it was later on where Bridgestone essentially, I think, screwed up their tires.
Oh, the 6 cars on the grid.
Yeah, oh, that's best.
Imagine watching that. Imagine paying tickets to watch that.
Bro, that's sad. That's why they ended up moving to just Pirellis, wasn't it? Because if there's not going to be a race, then at least no one's going to, like, you won't have 6 cars in the grid, no one would be on the grid, basically.
Well, I mean, Pirelli's basically, remember in like 2010 when they blow up every single, like there was one race in Silverstone where like 4 people's tyres blew up.
Yeah,
I think it was
Lewis was on the last lap as well. They had like 30 seconds?
This was more recent, you know, you were on about like last year.
Yeah,
I'm on
yeah.
about 2013 or 14.
No, I'm talking about last year. His tyre blew up and Valtteri's blew up, I think, on the last lap, and he was 30 seconds ahead, and by the end he's like 7 seconds essentially, or less.
Well, back to my top 5. Back to Mexico 2021, which I doubt is going to be a classic, to be honest. But it might be remembered because, as you said, Kota was the turning point for you.
Yeah, I think
a lot of people are talking about the turning point. I remember in 2018 when Vettel crashed out in the rain.
Hockenheim.
Everyone said this was the turning point, and I didn't want to believe them because Hockenheim is normally like around the midpoint. It's just after the summer break, I believe. It's around the midpoint of the season pretty much, and they said this is the turning point. I wouldn't believe it. I thought it was too early, and turns out it was kind of the turning point. So we'll see. My top 5, I would back Max for the win. I'd be surprised if Mercedes did anything. I'd say Lewis comes second because that's pretty much the best he can do. I say.
Yeah.
Do I back? I feel like I'm gonna say Perez gets on the podium. I hope he gets on the podium. I think he will be.
I hope he crashes into Max and they both go out. I don't. I don't like. I like Max. I don't like him because he wears flat hats. No, it doesn't wear proper hats. If he wears proper hats, I'd like him. You know?
It's an interesting reason, but I can't argue with that. To be fair, I
Yeah,
can't argue with that.
His hats
logic,
are bad, bro. He needs to wear like proper hats. No, I don't even know what they're called.
Lewis wears.
bad.
I think they're just flat caps.
Yeah, they're just bad, bro.
Yeah, that's fair. I think a lot of drivers.
that's why
Gasly can pull off a cap very well. To be fair.
No, but
I think he's the only person. He doesn't wear flat caps, but
he doesn't.
He pulls off a cap very well.
Yeah, but as in like Max you only wear those flat caps when you're like a teenager and you're like rebelling against your family. And you're like exactly, and you're trying to be like, oh, I'm an adult, but you're not really an adult. It looks like a teenager, bro.
He does. I mean, maybe he still is deep down.
Yeah.
He did come into F1 at 17.
Yeah.
I'm
he
now
didn't
19.
experience like his childhood.
I haven't experienced
But then
my childhood.
he stole his friend's girlfriend, so.
Oh, okay.
Which is just high school drama, isn't it?
Well, right, back to my top 5. I'm going to say Charles next. And then we'll go with Lando after Charles, maybe. That makes sense.
Charles
We'll go
in
with that.
P4.
Yes.
Valtteri not even top 3.
No, he's going to take an engine penalty and finish 8th because he can't get out of the midfield.
You know, the thing that actually kind of describes why Mercedes needed to let Valtteri go was Imola. When he's just stuck and he's being overtaken by Williams. And Williams hadn't even got like a few upgrades at that point. And
they still hadn't had points.
At the end of the grid. Like they were fighting with Haas just there. Like since then, actually the team have improved a lot. Like they're actually fighting way up in like 14, 15, 12th, even 11th, which is largely impressive, for them. But like I think big props to like the new management. They've done an incredible job. But I don't remember his name. What's the new CEO?
Jos Capito.
Yeah, he's really good. I have to give it to him. But the fact that he's being overtaken by arguably like the 9th or 10th worst or best car in the grid, like so either the worst or the second worst car in the grid, and he's in at that point he was in the best car in the grid. No.
Yeah.
Red Bull were not even close to him now, and he's being overtaken like that. Oh no!
I don't even know what it is with him. Yeah, I mean, whenever he gets caught out in 8th place, he just doesn't go anywhere. He just
Sergio Perez is the same, you know.
He's done that a couple times, yeah. Right.
See, this is the question: is it a Valtteri problem? Is it a Checo problem, or are just Max and Lewis so much better than?
Well, that's the thing. Obviously the cars at the front aren't designed to be driving behind other cars, but there's definitely a skill difference between Max, Lewis, and
but if rest. Max and Lewis are behind these cars, they overtake.
They do get past, yeah. I mean, that's just
I think it's not actually a car thing. I think it's like Valtteri and Checo are not like. You think back to like the best, like some of the best drivers over the past say 10 odd years or 15 odd years. I don't think they rank anywhere in top
No, they're not in the
20,
conversation.
25, not even 25 best drivers.
Really?
No, nowhere near. Because you think about, like, okay, 20 drivers. But you think about, like, good drivers that came over the past, like, say, 20, like 10, 15 years. And you think about drivers like Jenson Button, you think about Kimi, you think about Fernando, you think about Lewis, you think about Vettel, you think about Nico, you think about, who else? Like, all these drivers have one thing in common. Even when they're in bad machinery, they were still able to drive a good recovery drive.
Yeah.
Like, Nico had I remember his first race in a Williams, the car wasn't good. And he went to the end of the grid and he still managed to get points.
It's just Britney days.
But no,
that trim was horrendous.
Yeah, but he managed to get a recovery drive. Lewis has driven quite incredible recovery drives. Fernando.
It just reminds me, bro, every time when you say Lewis when you're making a point, it's Toto Wolff. It is Toto Wolff.
Is it? No, and you've got like Fernando, Jenson Canada was like, I think, iconic. Yeah, who else? All these drivers have one thing in common. I think that just sets them apart from like drivers like Valtteri and Checo. The only reason they're in a top team is there's not a good enough second driver that will fit into the team. And the reason is Toto doesn't want a second fiery driver because they obviously went through that thing with Nico. I think if he hadn't gone through that thing with Nico, he'd be more open to, say, having someone like a bit more fire in the team, or like, for instance, an actual competent second driver. Saying Valtteri's incompetent is a bit kind of too much, but as in saying,
but they're not looking
having
for the future.
a great second driver.
Yeah, they're not looking for. Valtteri does the job. That's all they needed. They weren't looking for anyone.
So if you think
they were
back,
just satisfied.
If you think back to, say, Rubens Barrichello, even he was the second driver to Michael, but he did some incredible races, like in terms of like recovery drives. Like, he had some really good races.
It's before my time.
No, but as in, like, even if you think back to, say, like 2009 when he was Braun GP, he kept hitting people and he went quite far back and he still managed to come back. I think he finished in second. But someone like Valtteri and Checo, they go back, they're incapable of actually coming back. And I think
Checo's done it before, but I guess it.
No, but this highlights
he did it in
Albon.
The one he won.
Alex Albon. He could go back and he just wouldn't come back.
Yeah, but the thing is, the problem with Albon is when he went back, it was his fault in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah.
so he's driven back to sixth, and they're like, great recovery drive, but like you could have just started fourth and finished fourth. To be honest, we would have been fine with that.
Who else has been great over the past, say, 15
Right, we're not doing this now. Okay?
No,
we can't do this now.
I named six, so I'm going to name a few others. Wait. You have to name Robert Kubica.
He had, there was a lot of potential.
I think if that, bro, he's been driving one-handed and he's still driving the F1 car, so I think that says a lot about his talent. Yeah. Just like, hands down, like.
Hands down?
That's actually pun not intended. Literally, pun not intended.
Your phone, bro. This is why I'm telling you to wrap it up.
It's still recording.
Okay, yeah, but I'm telling you.
My phone's
wrap it up, bro. Hurry up.
Okay, I can't think of.
Right, last thing. Look, I was gonna say Paul di Resta, legendary driver. But anyway, so I need your driver of the day quickly.
Driver
you need
of the day.
one answer, 2 words, which is the first
Lando
one.
Norris.
Interesting, very interesting.
Because if he's actually in top 5, then he's driven quite a good recovery drive. Like, in terms of like, he's taken a few positions up.
Interesting. I'm gonna say people will be watching Perez, because I'm saying driver of the day as in what the fans will vote for at the end. I'm going to say Perez because they're going to be watching him and he's going to do an okay race, but they're going to vote for him because
I think Perez
it's his home race. They're going to be watching him.
I think Perez is going to have an absolute stinker.
Interesting. Right, and final, quickly, your favourite moment from the Mexican Grand Prix that we've had so far?
They've all been bad, to be honest. That's the thing. You're like, oh, choose a great moment, but there aren't any. Like the only thing I can think of was like when Lewis won in Austin, and then like Nico won 3 races. The last three races after it, that was it.
Was that even an entertaining race?
Brazil, Mexico. No, that's my problem. I hate Mexico.
Wow.
It's such a boring race. Honestly, Mexico is so hard to overtake. It's so boring. Like, if you actually, I sat down and watched the whole race. And since then, I've not watched a single... Like, I watched that Nico one in, like, 2015.
16.
No, 15.
Oh, it would have been 15, yeah.
And I have not watched a single Mexican Grand Prix since then. It's so boring.
Wow. I mean, to be fair, I've done it in the game, and, like, when you look around, there's not a lot of play. Other than, like, I'd say the first sector and the start of the second...
No, my issue is the last sector.
It's possible. Yeah, the last sector, there's
the
no
stadium
chance.
area.
There's no chance.
That ruins the whole track. Like, that area just... Because they get quite close. get into the stadium, you're not passing. That's it.
To be fair, they have space to rearrange that. I feel like there's potential there.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of basically like, I think like
it's awkward. It ruins the
no,
flow,
I think it's one of the worst tracks on the grid by far.
You saved it for the end to say wow.
Yeah. No, if you think about it, I think Abu Dhabi is better. Because Abu Dhabi, at least there is the drama of like it's the final race and the championship and all of that, and it's not actually, it's a fairly okay track, as in it's not bad. Like Nico managed to overtake Max there, so like if Nico can overtake Max there, it's not a bad, like obviously difference in machinery, all that, but as in he still managed to overtake him. But yeah, I think it's like when I think back to bad tracks, Mexico just is there. Think about it.
I'm pretty neutral on it, but I guess
tracks.
I'd say it is just known for Lewis wrapping up the championship there.
No, he usually does that in Austin.
It's happened. I think it's happened twice in Mexico.
Is it?
But yeah, normally.
Yeah, I remember the one where they gave him the Senna. Was it Senna helmet?
Oh,
that was in Mexico. Yeah, it was in Mexico.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then.
Think about it. Bad tracks. Like when you think bad track.
Bro, we can't get into this conversation.
No,
we have
just
4 minutes left.
Name one.
Name one bad track.
Mexico.
Oh god. Abu Dhabi definitely works. Hold up. No, I'm not gonna get it up, and there's no way I'm not getting into this. Let me think.
Okay.
Australia isn't great, to be honest.
No, boring races. Like it's known for just nine.
Monaco. France.
Okay.
France.
I'll give you that. France, Monaco, and Mexico need to be axed. See, when I say Monaco needs to be axed, people will actually like get angry.
And which is why we're leaving it there. You're not even gonna defend yourself. Right, and my favourite moment, quickly, is that one guy with the selfie stick who tried to get a selfie with the drivers and it didn't work.
Oh, the DJ.
That was hilarious. I feel like that was really fun. Oh, it kind of backs up your point because it's nothing to do with the race.
Exactly.
A notable moment was if you remember, there was a time when Max in his aggressive phase, he got a penalty. And then he had to let Vettel pass or something, but he didn't let Vettel pass.
Oh, he lost the podium. Yeah.
And then he was backing up Vettel into Ricciardo, who was his teammate at the time. So now, Verstappen with the penalty is meant to let him pass. I don't think he was breaking the rules, because he either had like a few laps to give him the position or whatever it was, I can't remember. But either way,
he's backing me into Ricciardo.
Yeah, the way he pronounced his name.
I remember that.
I don't know why I found that so funny. It was really tense at the time as well.
Yeah,
fun times.
Okay. Monaco is just boring. That's why I say that.
Okay.
Yeah. If they change the layout, if the cars are better, if the cars are smaller, like Formula E, they can overtake. If the cars are smaller, interesting. Yes. The cars this year are so massive. Physically, it's not possible to like overtake.
Yes. Okay, no, I'm not just agreeing because we're running out of time. I am agreeing because you're right. It's not the track, it's the size of the cars.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, that wraps up Mexico, to be honest. Hopefully it is entertaining. We'll see if it's worth watching.
It's wrapped up pre-Mexico.
That is, yes, it's wrapped
some
up
other
pre-Mexico.
Basically.
Pre-Mexico and whatever else we could fit in between, randomly segueing into life, to be honest.
We just went off on like very weird tangents.
Honest, I don't even know where we end up, but like...
You concluded I sound like Toto Wolff. That's what we mentioned. And
we might have to put this in the intro tagline. We'll just be like, when I'm just constantly trying to get you to stop talking because we need to fit this into the time. So we're about to get kicked out of the library because I'm sure there's going to be some nerd trying to come in here in a second because they've booked the library at 8 p.m. on a Thursday. Oh, it's a Friday. Oh, that's even worse. All right, well, before they hear this, we're going to wrap up. Thank you for listening and stuff. I'm sure we'll put this out on like Spotify and other places.
You'll find it on Spotify,
YouTube,
Apple,
definitely.
Apple, I think it's called Apple Podcast, YouTube, and probably like Instagram and TikTok.
Until we get that exclusive Spotify deal that everyone seems to be getting.
Yes. But it'll be like 2-3 years in the future, like, where is the deal?
You'll still be at university. You'll still be here, bro.
No, hopefully not. It's my last year, okay? It's my last year.
Interesting.
People who think, you said that, people think I keep failing. It's not. I'm just doing a master, like an integrated master, so it's very long. Wow. It's not because I keep failing. I've not failed. I've not. Imagine. Anyways, thank you guys for listening in. We'll see you next time, which is probably post-Mexico.
Post-Mexico, yes.
Yeah, hopefully the race is not as boring as I expect it to be.
But even if it is...
I'm hoping it actually surprises me.
Yeah, same. I feel like there's potential for something big to happen. And I do feel like, even if something boring does happen, You know, this podcast will be able to fill up the entire 2 hours with absolutely nothing talk.
Exactly.
While everyone else is complaining that it's boring. We'll be able to come up with something.
We'll talk about some random stuff like we did today. Anyways, thank you guys for listening in.